3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43, and tonight we are finally taking our first look at the. It's not really new. At the Tier 8 Russian heavy cruiser. It's a heavy cruiser, Petropavlovsk. So, with that being said, let's take a look at our commander. We're running Nikolai Kuznetsov. We have Nikolai von Essen, and we have Francesco Mimbelli as our inspirations. We are running Beyond Range, Intuitive, Punch Through, Fixated, and Fully Packed for our commander skills. If we look at our loadout, we are running Aiming Systems Mod 1. We are running Propulsion Mod. We are running Concealment System Mod. And we are running the Main Battery Mod 3. Now, I didn't upgrade this to the Epic mod just because I don't play the ship, so it doesn't really do me much good to do it. But you can definitely do that if you want. Get a little bit more reload time out of these things. Get the gun cycling a little bit faster. Probably makes a big difference in this particular ship because I feel like the ship can be absolutely nasty in the right position if everybody on the enemy team's an absolute moron. So with that being said, let's take a look at. We are fully upgraded, just so you guys know. We are running the sonar and the radar with 3 heals. We have the Primordial Annihilator camo on this thing because it looks cool. And we have the Italian Unity. By the way, we made that a permanent camo, so it's maxed out. And then we're running the Italian Unity command or flag because it kind of looks like a Spartan helmet if you just squint just right. But from a survivability aspect, it has 45,500 hit points, which is kind of meh. Torpedo damage reduction, 19%. Main batteries, you have 220 millimeter guns, 65 caliber SM6s. Okay, so to put this into perspective, do not think that this is a super cruiser. I fell into the thought process when I first got this ship that it is a super cruiser, that it has battleship caliber guns. It does not. It has 220 millimeter guns, which I believe are either 8.5 or 9-inch guns. Okay, so they are not super cruiser-esque. This is heavy cruisers. Okay. The reason this is important is because this dictates where you should be shooting on ships, okay? Firing range is 18.7 kilometers, which you could absolutely get longer than that if you really wanted to. Reload time is 12.4 seconds currently. And again, if you go with the Epic mod and you start to stack up damage, that can come down quite a bit. 180 degree turn time, 45 seconds. That is by far the worst part of this ship. It is absolutely abysmal. And there's one other thing that I'll talk about that I hate about this ship, but this particular aspect is just stupid. A heavy cruiser with 45-second turning on the turrets is insane. Okay, that sucks. For HE shell maximum damage 3,050 with a 14% chance to set fires. AP shell maximum damage is 6,325. For secondaries, you have 130 millimeter 60 caliber BL 109As. You get 12 of those, reaching out to 5.2 kilometers, and they reload in 4 seconds. That's actually kind of nutty for a cruiser to have 12 secondaries that are reloading in 4 seconds, and they're decent size, 130 mils. HE shell maximum damage though 1,800 with an 8% chance to set fire. AA defense in this thing's actually pretty good, and that's going to come in handy in the video that I'm going to show you. 57 millimeter ZIF 75, you get 24 of those, doing 150 damage per second, reaching out to 4 kilometers as your close range, right? So you got a decent range to start as well. So you could absolutely try to build this thing for a defensive fire, shoot down planes sort of boat. You don't need to, and I think that would take away from your primary goal in this ship, which is to shoot things. But the odds are there. You could absolutely make a formidable AA platform. 130 millimeter 60 caliber BL 109A dual purpose secondaries. You get 12 of those, doing 167 damage per second, reaching out to 5.7 kilometers. For maneuverability, the maximum speed is kind of meh. It leads itself to the fact that it is a bigger heavy cruiser. It is pretty massive for a heavy cruiser. The turning circle's freaking awful. The rudder shift is awful for a cruiser. All these things are bad. And that's going to lead down the road to more. So one thing that I may end up doing at some point is swapping out our concealment system mod, which, by the way, remember, this thing's concealment is not good, even with the concealment system mod. Remember, we're running concealment on this thing, right? Yes, we are running concealment on this thing, and even with that, this thing has a 12.4 kilometer concealment. So you might want to just trade in the concealment altogether and go for the rudder to help with the rudder shift, because you need it in this ship. The only problem is if you start to speed up the rudder, you're going to be out turning your turrets. Your turrets are terribly slow. They really are. But yeah, so turning circle, 990 meters. I mean, that is literally worse than an Iowa-class battleship. The rudder shift is better than an Iowa-class battleship, but only just. It's at 12.1. So that would be good for a battleship, not for a heavy cruiser. So yeah, this thing's maneuverability leaves a lot to be desired. Which is why you usually see these things reversing to the back of the map, like trying to do their best carrier impersonation and just maxing out their range to use these railguns. Okay? Concealment. You have detectability by sea of 12.4 kilometers. Even with the concealment mod, even with running a top-level camo, like, this thing is not sneaky at all. It is literally the size of a goddamn battleship. It's detected like a battleship. Just treat this thing like a battleship that has cruiser guns. Detectability range by air is 7.8 kilometers. Guaranteed detectability is 2. And the detectability while firing in smoke is 9.1 kilometers. So you don't even get a very good smoke firing penalty out of this thing. There's really not a lot of high points to this ship. There's one. There's one high point to this ship. And that is the guns. But let's get into it. You can see my stats, 50% win rate. I have not enjoyed my time in this ship. It's meh to me. If you can get a bunch of dummies going broadside, yes, you can absolutely tear them apart, as we're going to showcase in the video. But for the most part, like, it's just not a particularly amazing ship in most situations. The good news is it does, unlike the Stalingrad, it does have the ability to use HE, which is huge. That allows you to set fires on those really hardened targets that are refusing to be stupid. But, in my experience, I have not actually utilized the HE a whole lot in this ship because most of the time, the AP is enough. These guns are disgusting. But, if you look at the bow, we have 25mm bow plating. So, it's what you'd expect. Anything 15 inches and above goes straight through your bow. However, you also have the extended belt, or the icebreaker bow, which is 40mm, which means anything that shoots at your waterline from the bow is doing absolutely nothing. You have to use this to your advantage. Battleship captains, you want to get rid of a Petro, aim high. Just like the Air Force, remember that. Aim high. If you aim waterline, you're in to cry. That's what's going to happen. You're going to be crying. Also, don't be a moron and go broadside to this thing. I promise you will regret it. Alright. Now, with all that being said, this thing does have a formidable amount of armor, which is good because you're going to need it, because you're going to need to definitely be tanking shells from battleship captains who are upset that you're punishing their broadsides. I don't know what I was just trying to say. My brain shut off. All right. The downside is, like most Russian cruisers, you have a gigantic raised citadel, starting at the front turret and ending at the rear turret. It is way above the waterline. If you get caught broadside or even slightly over-angled, you're going to get punished for it, especially if you over-angle and you get caught through the cheek by, say, a Yama. Yamas are very, very good at punishing Petros that just slightly over-angle. They go through the side plating straight into that gigantic citadel. I know the ship is not a particular wide ship, so the citadel is not that big, but trust me, if a shell finds the citadel, it will arm, it will annihilate you. So keep that in mind. You cannot over-angle this thing and get caught. So keep that in mind. Now, with all of that being said, let's look at the overview. Sure shot. Shells with a good ballistic trajectory maintain velocity, making aiming easier. These guns are literal railguns. They may not be the most accurate railguns in the world, but I'm telling you, The velocity coming out of these guns is insane. Even at long range, these shells are very easy to get to hit targets. And even hit targets where you're actually aiming to hit the targets. Now, yes, you're going to get some wonky shots. Yes, there are things you can do to improve that accuracy overall. You could swap out Membelli and his reload for, say, Norman Scott to try to get a little bit better accuracy out of these things. But trust me, the accuracy is good enough with this build that, yes, while you do have some wonky shots, more often than not, the shells are going to land. And they're going to land basically right where you aim them. So if you've got good aim, you're going to enjoy this ship. And even more than that, this thing is insanely powerful at long range with penetration. It just never seems to fall off. So if you're unsure of how penetration works, the further out a target is, the less penetration your shells have, right? Makes sense. Your shells start to slow down, so they're not going to pen as deep, right? These don't really do that. These things pretty much just yeet at any distance. So at any range, if you're going broadside to a Petro, prepare yourself to get punished for it. Because you're not going to be able to turn fast enough. And this goes for even some of the most agile cruisers out there. You're not going to be able to turn to angle fast enough because these shells will be on you faster than you realize. Okay? Now the next thing it has is full circle. The rear turret actually is a 360-degree firing turret, meaning it's generally where you need it. The problem with the rear turret is that it is in the most ridiculously bad spot on the ship. The rear turret firing angle on this ship is literally just trying to get you killed. Okay? If you're using all three turrets, you are in big trouble if somebody shoots back at you. Okay? So keep that in mind. The rear turret's firing angle is abysmal. Kind of reminds me of GK or one of those big battleships like that, where the rear turret is in the worst possible spot. So like you can't get that gun on target. And it always makes you feel like you should get that gun on target, and it almost always ends up poorly. Ask any GK that goes broadside at the beginning of the match. Right? So keep that in mind. Rear turret, 360-degree firing, great. But awful firing angles, so not good. Okay? Superior AP penetration. Above average AP shell penetration. And this is, again, leading to the fact that it has high caliber guns. Remember, these are what, 65 caliber? Yeah, 65 caliber guns. And they're 220 mil. Okay, so these are not small guns. They're cruiser guns, but they're big, heavy cruiser guns. And their pen does not fall off. And they just have the velocity for days. They really do. Okay, so keep that in mind. Petro, another heavy cruiser variant of Project 82 that was reworked taking into account the experience gained during World War II. In addition to her 8.7, see, there we go, 8.7-inch guns. I was close. I was like anywhere from 8.5 to 9. I just did that, in my head. Main battery guns. The ship received powerful dual-purpose artillery. Those secondaries that we talked about, and their AA capabilities, which is actually huge. You can see that by the fact that they have those big cutouts in it that allows them to elevate to extreme ranges. But anyway, she was designed in 1947. Obviously, she was never built. Let's take a look at this big thing. Okay, for a heavy cruiser, we gotta get this out of the way. If you've played the Kronstadt, if you've played the Stalingrad, if you've played the Riga, you know what you're getting out of this ship. You're getting hard-hitting laser beam type guns, but you're getting a ship that does not turn. It doesn't do anything else. It is a gun platform. You are to try to get it into a position on a flank where you have broadsides and pray to God everybody stays broadside and doesn't shoot you. Now, the armor is good enough to let you survive some really, really poor shooting by battleship captains, which, let's be honest, is a lot easier than you think, because most battleship captains do have pretty poor aim in overall, and most of them don't understand what they overmatch, what they don't. So, you can get away with a lot more than you think in this ship. However, at the end of the day, it is still a gigantic heavy cruiser, and what that means is if you're the center of attention, you're going to be taking a lot of damage from everything. And that's where this ship starts to fall off a little bit. But the guns, if people are dumb, the guns will absolutely make up for it. And with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Riposte, or Riposte. I'm not sure which way it is. I call it Riposte. But either way, we're going to showcase the strengths and a little bit of the weakness of the ship. There's not going to be a lot of weakness shown in this one, just due to the fact that, like, literally everybody that we face in this lobby was just not playing well. So, we're going to showcase the anti-aircraft capabilities of this thing. We're going to showcase the guns capabilities of this thing, and we're going to showcase some of the tankiness of this thing by taking all of the hits. Now, this map is not a great map for this ship. It just isn't. Most of the close quarters maps are just not going to be well suited to this ship. However, you got to learn to play every ship on every map, right? You got to be able to adapt and overcome. Put your ship in a position where you can defend and limit who can shoot you, and then focus down targets who are being dumb, right? That is the opportunity that we're looking for. Now, obviously, the worst thing I can do here is put myself as the front man here. But we all know that we're not going to get a lot of spotting. You can see the carrier on our side is going straight across the center of the map, so he's going to spot those guys. We need to put ourselves in a position to be the spotter slash the person who refuses to give up our side of the map. Now, this map is very scary for me in the Petro because I cannot get out of range of the people who could have a crossfire. So I really am relying on my teammates handling their side of the map when I take this position. The reason I'm saying this is, if you go to this position right here and you set up the way I'm going to, and the enemy manages to win the Charlie flank, you're gonna be killed very quickly because they have your broadside. Now, right off the bat, we see a Salem, and I am salivating because I'm like, okay, well, this guy's in trouble, especially with the way he's sailing right now. And you can see those rail guns, man. First shot out, and we just riddle him. Now, five ricochets. He did get angled. But you got to think, he was already angling before we fired those guns. Did you see how fast those guns got on target, like as far as the shells got there from the time we fired? Keep that in mind, because we're going to catch some people off guard with that. We reverse, we use our radar, and he's caught, and this one's going to sting. Like, you're in trouble, sunshine. And right there, 2 Citadels. He got turned away just a little bit. Remember, these are some of the more agile ships at their tier, right? The Salem is a pretty agile little boat, but it also has a lot of stuff sticking out of the water that's just begging for it. Now, here we aim high for the superstructure. We get a few hits. We may have hit his guns as well, so we don't manage to get a whole lot out of it. But as he starts to turn out, and one thing I would say is, if you have Azulane Chapayev, Commander, you might decide to use Chapayev. Now here, we actually get a penetration through the rear of the Salem. Remember, Salem and them, they kind of have a flat butt. So if you can get some penetrations back there, even if you don't overmatch it, you can still potentially pin that backside. Now there, I aim high. We get a lot of penetrations for like superstructure, but we don't do a lot of damage. We're also pinning a lot of modules like guns and stuff like that. But here you can see I'm limiting who can shoot us, right? Now the carrier comes up, he's trying to torp us. We're going to try to get out of the way of those torps. We managed to dodge the torps, which is great, and then we shoot down all of his planes. So you'll love to see. Now, remember, people get complacent. They're like, oh, this guy is hiding from us, he's not spotted, he just disappears, he no longer exists. And the problem with that thought is, I still do exist. Now, obviously, this Riga is begging for it, and we're going to showcase to this Riga why you just gotta be aware of a Petro. Riga should know this. Riga can do the same thing. Like, this is literally exactly what a Riga can do, only this thing does it even better because the guns just seem to go that much quicker. But, yeah, look at these shells on target. That one's probably about as bad a accuracy as you're going to get out of the guns. But still managing to put some rounds on target, and if he stays over-angled, we're going to punish him. Now here, we're putting ourselves in position to be focused by the 2 cruisers and the 2 battleships. As much as I want to shoot the battleship, I recognize that the Salem is starting to get complacent. He's like, oh, I haven't been shot at for a minute, he's shooting at the Riga. Wrong! You cannot underestimate this ship's ability to get rounds to you in a hurry. These things are like Amazon Prime, okay? They will be there by the end of the day. All right? It's not like you order these things and suddenly, you know, a week from now the shells show up. No. Consider these shells on time delivery. On same day delivery, okay? Same hour delivery. Like, just don't sleep on the ship. I've seen too many people do it. I've done it. I've actually been like, it's just Petro, it'll be fine. I should be okay from this range. No, it doesn't matter what the range is, because even a doofus can aim these guns, because there is not really a lot of lead involved. Now, obviously, that was a bad salvo, but you're going to have those from time to time. And these are battleships that we're shooting at. But we're at 75,000. Look at this accuracy on the superstructure of the Iowa. Blunk. Yeah, not a lot of damage, but you can see some of the weakness showing there. He hits a couple of shots into the deck. He manages to pin. The Massachusetts also going to get some shots through the deck. He gets some pins. If you can stay angled and they start shooting waterline, though, like at the ranges that they're at, they're going to be getting some plunging fire. It's going to happen, right? You've got to expect it. And oh my God, the Riga did it again. Well, time to remind him why you can't go broadside to a goddamn Petro in anything, let alone a cruiser. Yeah, you just don't do that, Sunshine. You can't. And this is one of the things, like, but this is the kind of match that you're praying for. Look at the south. See the island? The one battleship that's in a position to crossfire me is right up against the island, so he can't shoot us, thank goodness. But unfortunately, even with our amazing AA, it's still one versus what, everybody, right? We had the Riga, we had the what we call that thing? Salem. We had the Massachusetts, the Iowa, and we have the carrier all shooting at us for a little while. And every time that we leave them alone for a minute, everybody just forgets about us. Except for the Massachusetts, in which case Massachusetts is going to be a pain in my neck. But Riga, once again, opens up the angle, does not realize just how quick these shells will be on target, and we managed to take him out with another Citadel, leaving us with 10 Citadels in this game. And this thing is fully capable of Citadelic battleships, by the way, so don't play with it with battleships either. At close range, this thing can absolutely Citadel battleships. At medium to longer range, you can still do it on some battleships, but not as likely. Here, we're going to aim high, go for that superstructure again, and we managed to chunk him once again. We're not doing a lot of damage, but there's enough DPM here, even with the AP, that we're able to get quite a few kills, and sure enough, we're going to finish off the Iowa to get a third kill. And it's about this point that I don't even realize that the game's almost over. We've got 120,000 damage. We've done a lot for our team. One of the biggest mistakes that I've made is constantly shooting belt on battleships with this thing. If you aim bow side plating, stern side plating, upper side plating in the superstructure area, you're going to be a lot better off in this ship. Now here we turn in, he lands a lot of shells. Again, superstructure, deck penetrations, but the game is over. The mercy roll, once again, takes and ruins a perfectly fun game. It's one of the biggest issues that I have with the game is that if you start to have fun in this game, the game's over. 129,000 damage, 10 citadels, 3 kills, 17 planes shot down. We missed out on a lot of potential XP and a lot of potential damage because the game ended on points because the enemy just lost all their ships, which is unfortunate. But let me know what you guys think. I'm starting to warm up to the Petro, even though I really did not like this ship early on. I played 2 games in it tonight, both games over 120,000+ damage. So very, very solid if people are dumb, but other than that, it struggles. So let me know what you guys think, and if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.